Hello, here is your astrology reading. It's about midnight right now on February 8th now. So I want to start off by first saying thank you so much for signing up for this reading. And I'm very sorry that it took so long, but here we are at midnight on February 8th, which is officially Saturday. Okay, so we're going to be focusing on the moon, and I just want to show you briefly how to calculate the angle between the sun and moon. So you're going to start off by finding the sun, and then there's 30 degrees in every one of these little blocks. So there's 30 degrees between all these little sections here. So we start off by looking at the sun at 17 degrees Leo, and then we count by 30s and all the way till we make it to the moon. And it's always going counterclockwise. So we're looking at how far the moon is ahead of the sun. So for you, that is going to be 230 degrees. The moon is ahead of the sun. And this puts your moon into the disseminating phase. Disseminating phase is just like it sounds. I like to look up this word and read it when I'm reading for somebody who has disseminating moon. So I recommend just looking up that word in not in reference to the moon, just in a dictionary, and then looking at the word in reference to the moon. It really gives you a good idea about the qualities or the overall vibe of the moon phase that you were born into. So I want to just take a minute to talk about this, my favorite topic. The sun sign, that's what everybody talks about, right? So you were born when the sun was in Leo season. So 17 degrees Leo, and everybody pretty much in the world knows their sun sign. While the moon, which is also a luminary, hardly anybody knows their moon sign, but the angle between the sun and moon really tells us a lot about the personality. So the sun being the outward expression, the overall style and flair, and how we're gonna, when we do anything, we have this overall style to it. So for you, Leo, which is like extra, it shows up big, and it's big overall, big personality, big hair, big eyes, big everything, just like a very like, look at me, has that energy to it. Leo is the sign that's most like the sun, actually. So it's very radiant, overflowing with radiance, like the sun. And then when you look at the moon being the inner emotional realm, so when you think about that, like Leo, and it's all like this, and overflowing with radiance and beauty and love, that royal heart of Leo. And you walk into a room and you automatically have this overall style, but it tells us nothing about what's happening in your inner world, in your inner, like in the tides of your emotional waters. And this information is what we get by the moon. The sun doesn't tell us about your dreams. It doesn't tell us about your emotions or about your longing. It's very just like, what does she do? What does she look like? It's very like this, like the sun all up in your face, whereas the moon is more this sensual, flowy nature that is inside. So like when we're doing constitution analysis, there's a certain set of questions that we cannot know by looking at the person. We cannot know the quality of their digestion or what the quality of their dreams are like. We don't know what their sexual appetite is like. So when we're looking at somebody for an analysis, there's only what we see on the outside. But by asking the person these questions, we can start to find out about their inner world. So that's what we're getting with the moon, is looking at all of these things that we can only know by asking these certain questions. And in your reading today, I'm going to pinpoint the house position of the moon, the aspects or relationships between the moon and other planets, and focus on the sun-moon angle. So I want to start by just reading what I wrote about the disseminating moon. So this is the waning moon. It's exact at 210 degrees. And in our moon cycle, as we have been calling our menstruation, this phase of the moon correlates with the transition between ovulation and luteal phase. So the ovulation point would be the full moon. This is like the peak experience, the orgasmic merging, or the polarity between the sun and moon. And this gives us that full moon effect, which is the climax in the cycle, which it relates to our ovulation. And then the phase after your moon is last quarter, which relates with the luteal phase. And this is where we get very straightforward, direct, to the point. This is previously known as PMS, premenstrual syndrome. I'm thinking of this more as luteal phase, where we are direct and to the point. This is related to also like premenopause, or you could even say menopause phase, when there's just no more time for fluffy nest building in the uterus. It's just straight to the point. So during the disseminating moon, when you were born, it's that transition between ovulation and the luteal phase. So it's like still kind of coming off of that peak ovulation, not quite into luteal phase yet. Okay, so here, this is just like summing up disseminating moon, the shaman doing the deep inner work of acceptance and surrender. We sense into and through the chaos and crave liberation for ourselves and for others. We attune to the mysteries of life cycles, death, and rebirth. We lose our sense of self-importance. This phase relates with lamas. In Tantra Yoga, this starts the Suryacharya, ascending course of the sun, with the out-breath moving upward from the heart to throat. So there in Tantra Yoga, there's this breathing recognition of the sun and moon merging in our body with every single breath cycle. So I made a little not super good quality meditation that walks you through that breathing exercise. If you want that, let me know. Okay, so in the hero's journey, this is the return journey. We are feeling gratitude for survival and ready to integrate the gifts from the journey. In the menstrual cycle, this is transition between the high of ovulation and the hormonal shifts of the luteal phase. I don't know why I just read that to you. You could have just read that yourself. So anyway, it's midnight. Okay, so that's kind of the overall vibe. There's a lot more to disseminating moon. That's my little summary of it. But you kind of get the point. It's like the waxing moon peaks with the full moon, and now we have just started the descending or the decline of the moon cycle. All right, so let's look at this now. Your moon is in the 9th house. The 9th house is where we go off to college. It has to do with higher education. which having your moon there gives me the idea that your whole life you've had that like a drawing to higher education, to learning philosophy, like you being your life philosophy. Your moon is in the house of uh, philosophy, spontaneous fun, excitement, adventure. So to feed your moon, which you have in Aries, Aries moon is very direct, straightforward, to the point, blunt, can sometimes be considered mean because it is so direct. This is where we have the idea of bitch is Aries, Aries moon. It's very just not fluffy. It's hot and direct. Can be like a poke, like a pokey needle. And in the ninth house, that direct, assertive nature of Aries moon is our drive for spontaneous philosophy. The philosophy for your life, but having this spontaneous drive for adventure, wanting to go expand consciousness through journeys and trips and adventures. Okay, so keeping in mind that this is your moon, you were born during disseminating moon phase. So there is all this direct assertiveness, and it also has like this, like a shaman, like an elder, like a wise elder kind of vibe to it. And then looking at the moon's aspects, we can see the first one that I noticed right away is Uranus being exactly 90 degrees away from the moon, which 90-degree angles represent something that's challenging. It's in modern astrology, they will call it a hard aspect. That's because it's meant to be challenging and difficult and create enough tension in your life to help you to create something new. So Aries moon in 90-degree angle to Uranus would say that early in your life, you probably moved a lot, had a lot of change. So this square is meant to help you stay fresh and in the moment. And also, I'm seeing adrenal glands, like adaptability and your ability to adaptability. Something about water and the kidneys and being able to be changeable and having to be changeable. And whenever, like, so early in life, the moon also tells us about our birth mother and the person that we see as the womb that we come from, the nurturer, the protector of our physical body and our emotional body, which we often will relate to as our mother. And then Uranus in a square angle to that is showing also that that mother may have had, something about like being crazy and having just chaotic, not crazy, chaotic, moving a lot, or you having to be adaptable and be flexible and being able to shift your assemblage point all the time. And that can still continue on because even in our more mature phases of our life, the hard angles to the moon or the challenging dynamic angles to the moon continue to affect us. Although at a later point in life, hopefully we have gotten better at what they are meant to teach us. So for you, with Uranus square your moon, better at being able to shift and I wouldn't say go with the flow, because with an Aries moon, it's not about going with the flow. It's like when the shift happens, you still are taking you're still being direct, and you even maybe being the leader and deciding where to go, and being in charge, because Aries Moon has this kind of warrior vibe to it that is fierce. Okay, so then on the other side of this, you have what's called an easy aspect, or a harmonious aspect, where it's a 120-degree angle between the moon and your south node. So the south node is your past, your habits, your patterns, addictions. Some people call this karma. I think of it like your DNA, that there's like an ancestral imprint, or you could call it a karmic pattern that's built into you. So when you're born, you have this imprint, and could be habits. You know, sometimes when a baby is born, even though they never saw their dad, they'll still make the same facial features as their dad, or have the same mannerisms, which are just like, okay, that's really weird. It must be something in them, in their, you know, it's a mystery. I can't say it's in their genes. It doesn't make sense, but to me anyway. But anyway, so your moon being at this 120-degree angle to the south node gives me the idea that some of your past, your habits, your conditioning, your programming even, is lending a helping hand. So there's like a helping hand between the moon and this ancestral pattern or karmic patterning in you. And it kind of feels like possibly some of the things that are from your past come forward now into your emotional awareness, and can be a helpful thing for you to integrate in and be able to move with your past in a way that is supporting your internal waters. Okay, and your moon is in Aries. You're going to be having a Chiron transit, but that's not going to be until later in this year. Chiron transiting the moon can bring up your mother. Some people call this a mother wound. I think of it more like bringing to your awareness your own inner mother, what it means to be a mother, what it means to be a nurturer, and help you to integrate that. So whatever kind of things may have come from this stuff I was talking about with Chiron and changeability and Uranus, when this, I think I said Chiron, but I meant Uranus. When Chiron transits the moon, it's going to be activating this whole aspect, or complex rather. So this could be a time for working with your inner mother, and also your mother, the womb of origin, the womb you came from, because Chiron comes to make whole, and WHOLE, that kind of whole, to bring wholeness, which usually that will come to places where we feel not whole, which often are not comfortable places for us. So you have that transit coming up, affecting the moon. And I just wanted to mention that. So thank you so much for letting me read your chart and ramble on at midnight. Please feel free to ask any questions. I hope you're enjoying Temple of the Moon. It is my passion project right now that I'm like totally engrossed in, and the reason why I'm up at midnight almost every night, because I'm studying about the moon and learning about progressions and transits and different moony things like lucid dreaming and astral projection and all this kind of stuff. So anyway, thank you, and I love you, and I hope to connect with you soon.